everybody, welcome back to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we've got the Gambit set for Star Realms that we're going to be taking a look at. Now the Gambit set is really a very small expansion for Star Realms. Granted, Star Realms itself is a small game, so I'm not going to take the time to do a full rules overview or a components or a gameplay. We're just going to do a card close-up of the cards you get with the set, and then I'm going to do a quick review as well. If you haven't seen my previous Star Realms videos, take a look at the playlist here on YouTube. I've got a components overview and unboxing, rules, gameplay, and a review of Star Realms itself. So, and then also a card close-up of Star Realms. So please take a look at all that. And so now let's start off with a card close-up of the Gambit set. Here we go. All right, first we'll take a look at the one ship that you'll be getting with the Gambit expansion. And that's going to be the Merc Cruiser. Now, as you can see, it's an unaligned ship. It's going to cost you 3 trade. It's going to give you 5 combat just for playing it. And then you also get to choose a faction as you play Merc Cruiser, and the Merc Cruiser has that faction for that round. This is actually a pretty powerful ship, in my opinion. You can be guaranteed to trigger whatever faction ability you want when you play this Merc Cruiser. And then also it's giving you 5 combat for only 3 trade. Definitely one that I would grab up as soon as you have an opportunity. Alright, let's take a look at the Gambit cards, which of course is the main focus of this expansion. Now the first one we're going to look at is called Rise to Power. You're going to get 2 of these in the set. And for this one, you can scrap it to gain 8 authority and draw a card. Next is the Energy Shield. You also will get 2 of these in the set. And when you play this one, whenever you, not your bases, are attacked, reduce the damage by 1. And the last of the cards where you get 2 of them, this one is called Frontier Fleet, and each turn you're going to gain 1 combat just for having this in your hand, or excuse me, just for having played this. Now, something interesting, if you get Frontier Fleet and your opponent has Energy Shield, then they effectively cancel each other out. As long as you're attacking directly to the person with the Energy Shield. Yeah, obviously the Frontier Fleet's still going to help a little bit if you're having to get through some bases. Alright, and here we've got Political Maneuver, and that's going to give you 2 trade when you scrap it. Wild Gambit, you can pay X trade and shuffle the unclaimed Gambit cards and deal yourself X face down, and then keep 1 and return the rest. Bold Raid, you're going to scrap this one and then destroy target base and draw a card. Surprise Assault, you're going to scrap this one for 8 combat. Unlikely Alliance, you're going to scrap this one to draw 2 cards. Salvage Operation, you can scrap this one and put target card from your discard pile on top of your deck. Smuggling Run, you're going to scrap this one and acquire a card of cost 4 or less without paying its cost. The final thing that you're going to get in this is 2 different boss monsters to fight, or I say this one's a boss monster, the other one you'll see in a second isn't really an individual monster. But in this case, it's the Nemesis Beast, and you have 2 different ways you can play against this guy. You can either do a co-op challenge, which I have not gotten around to doing yet. My wife enjoys whooping me so much in Star Realms that I have not gotten her to be willing to cooperate to fight the Nemesis Beast. However, there is another way you can fight against him, and that's with the solo challenge. And you can see they have basically the same, the Nemesis Beast has pretty much the same powers, it's just slightly tweaked depending on which one you use. And basically the way this works is he starts with 50 authority, and when you're fighting the Nemesis Beast you also start with your normal 50 authority. And when it's the Beast's turn, he's going to scrap the card in the trade row farthest away from the trade deck. That's going to go to him, and on that turn he'll now have 1 combat. You're going to slide everything down on the trade row. You're going to put a new card from the trade deck at the beginning of the trade row, and at that point, whatever faction that is going to trigger one of these. And so you can see if it's a Star Realms, you discard 2 cards. If it's the Machine Cult, you're going to put a random card in your hand on the top of your deck. If it's the Blobs, Nemesis Beast destroys target base. If you have none, it gains 3 combat. And then if it's a Trade Federation, Nemesis Beast gains 5 authority. And like I said, you can see with the co-op version, it's pretty much exactly the same, just tweaked for 2 players. The other boss are the Pirates of the Dark Star. And by the way, on these, on the back, it has instructions on exactly how to play with them. Their functionality is essentially the same as the Nemesis Beast, except for when they flip over that card to replace the one they just scrapped at the beginning of their turn, it's going to actually also, that's where they get their combat from. So you can see when you flip over Star Realms, the pirates attack with combat equal to 2 times the cost of the card they just flipped over, and you discard 2 cards. With the Machine Cult, scrap the trade robe, pirates attack with combat equal to 2 times the cost of the new highest cost card. So that one can really mess you up if you've got some cards you're looking to buy in the trade robe because now they're gone. If you flip over a blob, pirates attack with combat equal to 3 times the cost, which can be devastating if you get something like the Mothership out there or Blob World. And if it's the Trade Federation, pirates attack with combat and gain authority equal to 2 times the cost. So that can be a pretty impressive point swing right there. And then, of course, with the co-op, very similar again, just tweaked for 2 players. And also, or more players, obviously, too, if you want to play with more. One other thing to keep in mind is that with the Pirates, they start with 25 authority, and you start with 75, which you'd think would make it significantly easier, but they are tough as well. Okay, so there you go. That's the Gambit set. You're going to get a total of 20 cards with this expansion. And the expansion runs for around $10 for these 20 cards, which by itself doesn't sound like necessarily a bad deal, but one thing to keep in mind is that 4 of the cards are going to be these solo and co-op challenges. 13 of them are going to be the Gambits, of which 3 of the Gambit cards have duplications. And the only ship you're going to get is the Merc Cruiser, and you get 3 of those. So, is that worth it? Well, let's take a look at how I scored this overall, and we'll kind of talk about that as we go through. Okay, so for originality, with this one, now you know, for Star Realms itself, I liked what I was seeing as for originality. I like the factions, all that kind of stuff. This one, though, feels it doesn't bring a lot of new stuff to the table for Star Realms. It adds a couple things. It does add solo. It does add co-op. How much fun those are is going to be dependent on whether or not it's up your, the way you like to play a game. I have played a couple of rounds of solo, three solo games actually total. It's just not my cup of tea. I'm not big. The only game that I found so far I really enjoy playing solo is the Lord of the Rings, the card game. Other than that, it's just not quite for me. So that isn't really a big draw. Co-op is kind of a hard sell because of how much fun going against each other is. And so those 4 cards really didn't add a whole lot to the game for me at all, even though they do add new options as far as playability. The Gambit cards are kind of cool, though I don't know, it feels a bit random. So really the big draw here is the 3 ships for me, and I don't know how the rest of you feel about that, but for me that's where the big draw is getting the Merc Cruiser, which is an awesome card. I have to say I love the Merc Cruiser, so that is a really cool addition to the deck. So for originality though, I'm giving this a 0.75 out of 2. I feel that it tried to bring some new stuff, but it just didn't quite cut it as far as being worthwhile, and it only brought a little bit of new stuff. The thing that makes Star Realms great, it didn't really add a whole lot to any of that. And even with the Gambit cards, as you saw in the card close-up, most of them are just derivative of the rules that are already in place for Star Realms. There's nothing that was really adding any new functionality or new rules or new effects. They all just kind of played off of what was already in place. For aesthetics, I still love the artwork. I do think the Merc Cruiser is a very cool looking ship. However, these Gambit cards, you can see at the bottom, and when the card close, I'm sure you saw as well. At the bottom right here, these are the rules for how to use the Gambit cards. Why couldn't they have taken those off of these cards and then had a single card that explained how to use a Gambit card? And then you could use that space. You could either have made the artwork bigger. You could have put flavor text there. You know, only about half the cards have flavor text as it is. So why not use that space right there for flavor text instead of the exact same rules on every single Gambit card? I don't understand that. So not a big fan of how they did that. The artwork is still awesome. I still love the artwork. So for aesthetics, I gave it a 1.5 out of 3 for that. You know, the artwork's cool, but the vast majority of the cards you get with the deck, the Gambit cards, just a lot of wasted space there. Space that could have been much better used otherwise. And it's kind of an eyesore seeing that at the bottom of the Gambit cards, every single one of them. Component quality, you know, it's the same thing as Star Realms. You know, nothing too much to knock on that. It's a card game. The cards are what you expect in cards these days. So I gave it a 3 out of 4 on that. Thrill factor, out of 3, I gave this a 1.5. Again, solo and co-op didn't really do it for me. The Merc Cruiser, very cool. I like it a lot. When it shows up, it can really be a powerful boon to whatever you're trying to do that turn. The Gambit cards, for the most part, felt, even though they were cool, and even though I enjoy using them, they still feel just a bit underwhelming. And for instance, something like Political Maneuver gives you scrap the card, you get a one-time effect of 2 trade, and then something like Frontier Fleet, each turn you get 1 combat every single turn. That's pretty drastic difference there. I don't know. They're fun to use. I like using them, but it just doesn't feel like it adds anything major to the game or to the amount of to the thrill of the game that wasn't already there. Because, you know, love playing Star Realms, but these just didn't add anything to really ratchet up that thrill level. So for the thrill, I'm giving it a 1.5 out of 3. Not bad, but nothing fantastic either. And finally, for gameplay, you know, it's still Star Realms. It is still Star Realms. I'm still going to love playing with these cards, adding them into the deck as, you know, as it stands. So I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 for gameplay. And what that finally brings us to is a 57.35%, which on my scale is meh. You know, I mean, if you love Star Realms, which I do, might be worth getting just for the Merc Cruiser. But if Star Realms is a game you're not sure yet about, or you're kind of on the fence, or it's just an okay game for you, then you might want to pass on this one. I don't believe the Gambits are enough to really make it worthwhile getting this if you're not a huge fan of Star Realms already. Maybe look into the Crisis Packs, which I'm hoping to get pretty soon. I'll probably be picking those up in the near future. However, it's a quick overview. If you like solo and co-op, maybe if that appeals to you, there's a selling point. The Gambits are kind of underwhelming, though they do add a few cool features. The Merc Cruiser, awesome ship, really good to have in the deck. If you're able to find the Merc Cruiser by itself somewhere, maybe that's what you want to do, is buy that instead. Hope you enjoyed my review in this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you like my channel, please subscribe. Please share it with your friends. Please look me up on BGG if you want to. And until next time, if you're bored online, bored offline.